recording. So now you own and operate the Pain Navigator, which is a coaching and consulting company. Can you share with my audience a little bit about why you chose this particular platform and about the services that you offer?
Okay, so it's not, the Pain Navigator is a moniker. The business is called Beyond the Walls Coaching and Consulting.
That's right.
And I do that because I've been through some horrible times in my life. You know, we don't all look like what we've been through, but you know, when if I might be just a little bit transparent, you know, you're looking at somebody who's been molested and raped, all of those dynamics, and I've been through some pretty painful situations in my life. And it was just I think it was 2019, I was actually riding on I-20 and I heard the Lord say to me, I have a lot of revelations on I-20. I heard the Lord say, you know, that I'm the Pain Navigator. I'm like, what is this? Because I have gone through the pain and I'm able to help people come through the pain. Particularly, my ministry in that area is to women only. Not that men have not been through some painful things, but it's to women only. And I do relationship coaching, but I don't coach it as far as a relationship between a man and a woman. I coach the woman about her relationship with herself. Because oftentimes, you know, we look for people to make us happy. And particularly when we are in a relationship, we're looking for that other person to fill all of our needs and make us happy. And half the time we don't know what our favorite color is, what our favorite food is. We don't have anything about ourselves. So I help women, you know, discover them, and I help them have a relationship with themselves, because before you can love anybody else, you really have to love yourself.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And, you know, you were, you know, somewhat transparent right there, and I appreciate that. You know, and this next question leads me to some, my own personal pain. I, you know, before I married Andrew, and he's a wonderful guy. We've been married 20 years, just celebrated 20 years of marriage this year, and it's wonderful. But I was in a relationship with a former husband for 10 years who was a crack cocaine addict. And that took me through, and our children, through some serious changes. As a matter of fact, I feel like in some ways my children, who are all adults now, are still having to grapple with some of the stuff that happened then. But, you know, it is what it is. And, you know, they're working through some of that, and I'm grateful for that. But there are a lot of women, married and unmarried, who are in relationships where they have either suffered physical abuse, and who are currently even living in dangerous situations like I was. I was in a very bad situation. I was fortunately able to get out, but there are a lot of women that are in these situations. I just want you to just kind of go there with me. First of all, what word would you have for these women, and where can they go for help?
I would really say, get out. You know, there are so many, there's so many reasons that we use. Some of them are economical reasons that we stay. Some of them is, I grew up without my father. I don't want my kids without their father. You know, we use some of them, well, the Bible doesn't agree with it. We use all kinds of things, and we allow people to use all kinds of things and all kind of principles or whatever. But that does not mean for us to be abused in any shape, form, or fashion.
That's a good word.
Tell somebody who is in an abusive situation, particularly if it's physical abuse. Find a way, make a plan, make a plan. If you can steal 50 cents a week, away from whatever it is, make a plan.
Absolutely.
Don't tell everybody your stuff. Make a plan of departure. Make a plan, and don't make a move until you got that plan solidified, unless your life is being threatened and you're in danger and you gotta go. If you gotta go, pick up and go. Don't worry about don't worry about toiletries or the kids.
None of that.
Don't worry about anything, because all of that is replaceable. What is not replaceable is your life and the life of your children. And you shared, you know, that, you know, from the first marriage, the trauma that you're and that you experienced, and you know, all of our decisions impact our children, and They do. And from, a previous marriage to my kid's father, my kids have come up through some trauma and drama. Even in the previous, they've come up through some stuff.
Sure.
And so I say there comes a time in our lives when we have to choose ourselves.
Definitely.
Choose yourself. And if you're looking for somewhere to go around here, Project Renewal is the only domestic violence that I know. But there are domestic task force. There is Haven International, which is Kenya Motley.
Yes.
Yes. Haven International is a resource to be able to reach out to her and find her online. Project Renewal is where the shelter is, and none of us know where it is. We just know that
there is Project Renewal. Those are good resources.
Yes.
Yeah, those are good. Yeah, and I have to agree with you. I can't tell you just 110% about what you said, to make a plan. And that is what I did. I put that in once I realized that this isn't getting any better. I think at first I was in denial. And like you said, people said all the things that you mentioned earlier about, is this really God's, God doesn't like divorce, but he also doesn't like a man covering his wife in violence. They forget that part.
Right. Absolutely.
And so, and I, and money, because I was, a stay-at-home mom. So he was a primary breadwinner. So I kept thinking all these things, but I did make a plan. I did have some good people in my life to help me make that plan. And I was able to execute the plan and get out. But I would absolutely agree with you as someone who's actually walked through that, that the things you just said are just very, very pertinent and true. So the next thing I would say is that it's one thing to be physically abused. We just talked about that a little bit, but one of the questions I asked my viewers and on a Facebook poll was, is emotional abuse also grounds for leaving or for a divorce? As a pastor, as a woman who's dealt with some things, how do you weigh on this aspect of abuse?
Abuse is abuse. To me, it's like a lie is a lie. There are no big ones, little ones.
That's true.
Abuse is abuse in any form. In any form. And sometimes, particularly in my case, it wasn't physically abused, but the emotional abuse.
Yes.
The emotional abuse can be a long, long road back. It's like going down some proverbial rabbit hole. You have valued, your self-esteem is low. You don't feel yourself worthy. So emotional abuse, one of the things that my father said to me, and I took it as a form of emotional abuse, and it made it caused me to make decisions that were not so good for my life. It caused me, I'm going to say, caused me to settle. One of the things, when I told my father, God bless his soul, when I told my father I was divorcing my children's father because of everything that was going on, my father said to me, now this is a pastor of a church. My father said to me, who's going to want you with 3 children? Oh
my God, you're kidding.
And that seed was planted and followed me. And followed me.
Yes.
It caused me to settle and to accept
the badness
was nothing for me.
Because
then I, when I met someone and I was in a relationship with someone, I began to say, well, this is the best I can do.
Oh my!
Well, my daddy said nobody's going to, and he's willing to accept me with 3 children, as if I had no value of my own.
Exactly.
And those seeds are planted in us. Though we don't bring them to the surface every time we have a conversation,
but they're there.
To make a decision about moving forward with a relationship, it's there. And so we suffer all kind of emotional abuse. But if you're in a relationship and you are being abused, even if I say this, even if you are in your familia with your family, and people there, because we find toxicity in families.
Oh my goodness, all over the place.
And God doesn't mean for us to be abused in any form.
That's right.
We have to back away. And what I love about divorce, it says irreconcilable differences.
Yes.
You really even got to name anything.
That's right. That's right.
And emotional abuse is an irreconcilable difference.
Absolutely. Unless there's, and I know of those cases where the woman, and I speak of the woman because these are the situations I know personally. where she has, decided to separate and set the boundary and make and the criteria for getting back together was, the husband, her spouse, had to do X, Y, and Z. There are those cases where the boundary has been set. The person at that point has an option. Either I lose her or I do, what I need to do to try to get her back. And I say, if you can reconcile, if there's, if the person can learn new ways of operating, then maybe there is a chance for reconciliation. But beyond that, there is nothing. What do you think to that?
And that's a tough road.
Yeah.
A tough road to hoe right there, because in our culture with Black men,
yes,
a lot of them don't believe in counseling.
They do not.
They do not believe in counseling. Yeah, and so that's a hard thing. And so when you make that kind of decision and you set the boundaries, and this is it's either going to be a win-win or we're going to go our separate ways, and we're still both going to win. We just won't win together. But you still have to, I would advise that you not, don't give in, don't waver. No. Because it's not going to get better. No. What we say we can fix, I'm going to do better, and I'm not do that anymore. That's temporary. That's mouth talk. That is not from the heart. It's not from the heart. And without the right kind of professional help, it's not.
That's exactly right. And it has to be the right kind of help, because even in that, and when we had done a little bit of counseling, I'm talking about in my previous marriage, but the counselors that I went to, unfortunately, they didn't hold him accountable. As a matter of fact, there was 2 or 3 different counselors that came to mind, because I tried more than one. It was almost as if the blame was placed on me. Yeah. Because he would go in and tell his, spin a story. And then and they were looking at me, and I'm thinking, no, this guy is an addict. And so anyway, so you do have to get the right kind of help. Not all therapy and counseling is equal.
Right.
I think that's important to understand.
And I, for me, I would say, because if it comes to the place where the person needs counseling, this is not marriage counseling we're going for. You're going over there and get your counseling.
Exactly.
To get my counseling,
that's a
because
word.
I need to know what causes me to accept this behavior, what causes me to constantly and continually to allow this same behavior. So there's something in me that's broken, something in you that's broken. So you go over there and get your brokenness fixed, and I'm going to go over there.
And that's an excellent word, because after separating and finally getting divorced, for 5 years I spent as a single gal, just raising my children, didn't date, didn't do any of that. I just wanted to focus, and during that time I spent a good bit of time in therapy for just me. And that was one of the most although it was a very difficult time, as raising children by myself and having to be mom and dad and primary breadwinner. But it was also it's like the book says, the best of times and the worst of times. I also grew so much. I found out about who I was and why I made some of the choices I made back with the first guy. And then after 5 years, the Lord opened the door, and I ended up marrying the youth minister at the church that I was going to at the time. And 20 years later, here we are. And it's been he's such a blessing. He's an amazing guy, and we have a great, we're a good team. But I think that, I don't know if that would have happened had I not taken that time to really do therapy and find out about who I was.
And you said something very critical as you get ready to go into your next question. You said, had you not taken the time?
Yes.
We don't know how to take time because we often know how to be alone.
Yes.
We don't be alone. Now, for me, the way that I see men in relationship, men move quickly, because it is them to be alone. They can leave you this week, and Saturday you'll be with somebody else. But for us, we need time. We need to process.
Yes.
We need to heal. We need to look and see what caused all of this. How did we get here? Take time to process. What do you want different in your next relationship? What do you believe in God for? How do you see yourself? And so that time is critical.
It is very critical.
Otherwise,
and you can't rush that. I mean, and it could be different amounts of time, different lengths of time for different people. For me, the time really was about 5 years, about 4, because we dated a year before we got married. So I was single a total of 5 years. But it was it was like I said, it was healing, and I needed that. I didn't need all the distractions of being in this relationship and then quitting that guy and being in the next one. So, and I think you're right. People are afraid to be alone, but it's okay to be alone, because being alone is not necessarily being lonely. I had friends. I had friends, I had family, I had good relationships that I was in, accountability relationships, but I just wasn't connected to a man. And I needed not to be connected to a man.
And we need to be okay with not being connected, because that's not our identity.
That's exactly right.
There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. That's
right. And I discovered that, and that really helped me. So here, I have a question for you. If you had to give the church at large, a grade on how well they've done with dealing with abuse and women and their emotional pain, what grade would you give? I'm very curious to know that.
F.
Oh,
F.
You just went there. Wow.
I went to F because, I'm going to share a situation without a name. I was serving at this one church, and I noticed that one of the head deacons, his wife was sitting in church with sunglasses. And in the wintertime, in the whatever time, I would go to speak to her and stuff, and she would, shy down or whatever. And one day I just did her sunglasses like that, and she had a black. So I talked to the pastor, and I said, "Do you know that he's abusive to her?" And he said to me, "I can't tell that man what to do in his house."
Oh my! Was that his answer?
That was his answer.
That is horrific.
And so much stuff happens in the church, from leadership down to the janitor. So much stuff in the church, and it happens to women, and women are not believed, and shepherds eating the sheep and praying the members, and so much stuff happens, and the woman is always the one who suffers. She's always the one who has to leave the church. I know pastors who have babies by and the women are ostracized, they're talked about, and the man is celebrated. They get an F from me. I don't care what denomination, they get an F, because they do not handle and deal with our emotional pain. They don't even want to hear from us when it comes to something like this.
No. And only in recent times, and that's after they have been exposed, the situation, the church, the minister, have they come back after the fact and said, "Oh, okay, well, this did actually happen, and we're going to, make him accountable." But that's only recently, and that's too few and too far between across the board. White churches, Black churches, Catholics, Protestant, across the board, it's a problem.
It is. And what they mean when they're saying making them accountable, it's like, we're going to talk to them and tap him on the hand and say, "Don't do that anymore." Give them another 9 months so see who shows up pregnant.
Exactly. Which is,
see who's, and is the pastor abusive to his own wife? They don't address that. They don't. The wives got to stay home or cover up with much makeup so that it's not known. So I give them an F.
And unfortunately, I have to agree with you, because like I said, it's not like it's just a church here or a church there, or even white churches or Black church. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It really is the church at large. And it's such a shame. And I think that has been such a stumbling block for so many people, women and men, because if the church, who is supposed to be upholding righteousness and goodness and love and honesty, if they won't do right, why would I even want to bother with the establishment? And I think we see, I talk to young people a lot. I've got my own young people, and so many of them have walked away from the church. They see what's going on.
Oh, yeah. And they don't want that. That's why I was saying, I think that God is allowing the church, with what's going on with COVID, not that God calls COVID.
I know.
He is, just breaking down and allowing us to come back to our first love, because
he is.
we've got programmatic and performance oriented and stuff. church is supposed to be like a trauma center. It is a hospital.
Amen.
And we're supposed to be able to come in there and walk out differently.
Amen.
We're supposed to go in there and get and have and encounter the pain that we're coming from the world to get away from.
Exactly.
And so, but the church has, in a lot of instances, the church as a whole has failed society.
Yeah.
And when people look at it and say, I don't want any parts of that, because I can be in the streets and get better treatment.
Wow. That's exactly right. And so this leads me to my last question. What are some specific things that maybe come to mind that the church and other faith-based ministries can do to better meet the needs of women who are hurting, who are either from physical abuse, emotional abuse, just hurting?
They really need to have something set up for, I'm going to call it a trauma center. They need to have a trauma center. They need to have, when people think of pastoral care, they think, let's go to the hospital and visit this person. Let's go by that house and take a cake or something. Pastoral care needs to be inclusive of dealing with trauma and the angst and the pains experience. It needs to be that kind of care and concern in the church, and not that the church is going to be the end all be all, but I ought to be able to feel safe when I go there. I ought to be able to be heard when I go there. I should be able to contact somebody because I should be able to reach out to somebody and say, hey, I'm hurting. This is what's going on. Know, first of all, that it's going to be confidential. And then should be pointed, because the church doesn't have to have all the resources. But the church ought to have a resource database that it can say, hey, if you're in a domestic violence situation, I want to pray for you. I want to encourage you. I want to hear you, because the church has a problem listening.
Absolutely. I was going to say that.
A problem listening. Yeah. I want to hear you. I want to hear your side of the story, because sometimes in churches, the big thing is cover up so that the church name.
Absolutely.
Not,
absolutely.
Have any fallout from it. So
exactly. You're right about that.
Cover off, snatch the cover.
And I will say this. You just everything you said was so good. I will say this for the church that I was at the time that I went through a divorce, and I'm grateful to God. It was one of the few places that did come alongside me. It was a small Presbyterian church here in Stone Mountain, and the church has since, that pastor has since left, and the church is actually turned over to someone else now. But for 22 years, I was there. That's where I met my husband. But during that time, when I went to my pastor, he did believe me. And I'm so grateful. And he was a white guy, but he did believe me. And he did meet with me and that current husband at the time. And he just said, I don't understand, why you won't cooperate with her. He was the one person that held him accountable. Of course, my ex-husband didn't want to see him anymore. But anyway, so I'm grateful for that, because that often I see now, and I've heard from other people, and even just listening to you today, that's often not the case. And they did come alongside. It wasn't perfect. I mean, there were little things that were said and done by others, but he himself, that pastor, did believe me and did say, you need to get out. And I'm so grateful, because often that does not happen. And like you said, women end up going to these people and receiving more trauma than they had originally. And
it's a very rare occurrance that you will kind of support, because it's not every church that you go to.
No, not most, actually. You have, talking to you has been just, it has just warmed my soul, and I think that others will be blessed by what you've shared today. I'm so grateful that you were able to take time out of your schedule and talk to us today. And I feel like there are other conversations we need to have. So I may reach out to you again, just so you know, give you a heads up. Thank you so much, Dr. Boyd-Cox. I appreciate your time, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you. Take good care.
Bye-bye.